Claro que sí, de esa manera estamos observando.
Nos tomamos la gobernación.
An indigenous protester died in clashes with security forces as violent protests erupted on the streets of Ecuador's capital, Quito. The incident took place during the 9th day of demonstrations against the Ecuadorian government over its handling of economic policy. The protester who died was a member of the Quechua indigenous group. He was participating in a roadblock when a confrontation broke out and he was then hit on the face with a tear gas shell. This is the second death of a protester after a young man died overnight. The youngster fell into a ravine while trying to flee from the military just outside the capital. Tear gas, stones and military pellets dominated the confrontation with anti-riot personnel. This came after Ecuador's armed forces warned that they would in fact not allow ongoing protests to damage the country's democracy.
Igualmente, nosotros
We continue to call for dialogue and rationality, but we know there are some organized groups trying to generate chaos in the city. The police units have implemented various investigations and devices to identify those who are financing the protests and violence.
Thousands of demonstrators have protested in Quito since June 13th to demand concessions from the Ecuador president, Guillermo Lasso. The protest was called by the Confederation of Indigenous Nationalities of Ecuador. The movement has since been joined by close to 10,000 people, including students, workers and other Ecuadorians who are feeling the economic pinch. Their demands include a fuel price cut, a halt to the expansion of oil production and mining, more time for farmers to pay their debt, and budget rises for healthcare in particular. Since the start of these protests, major routes entering Quito have been blocked by protesters. Demonstrators have also halted close to 190,000 barrels of crude oil production. President Lasso extended a state of emergency to cover 6 of the country's 24 provinces, with a nighttime curfew in Quito on June 20th.
All right, we're following some breaking news out of Georgia, everybody. A lot of people waking up early this morning to the ground shaking, a 3.9 magnitude earthquake rattling the southeastern part of that state. It happened just after 4 a.m., centered in Candler County, just about 160 miles from Atlanta. People reporting feeling the tremors hundreds of miles away. There are no reports of any major damage or injuries caused by this earthquake. It is the second day in a row Georgia has woken up to an earthquake, by the way. There was a report of a small 2.5 magnitude quake yesterday, about 50 miles north of this morning's earthquake.
And the situation tonight only worsening in Afghanistan after that powerful earthquake overnight, leveling villages in the mountains near Pakistan. The 5.9 magnitude quake killing 1,000 people, and tonight authorities say that number will likely grow far higher. Here's ABC's Maggie Rulli now.
Tonight, a frantic search for survivors after the powerful quake that rocked southeastern Afghanistan. At least 1,000 people have been killed and more than 1,500 injured. Helicopters flying rescue missions to the hardest hit areas. Communication with the disaster zones said to be poor or non-existent, with cell towers knocked out. The quake struck around 1:30 in the morning when people were sleeping. Many victims trapped in their homes built of mud, particularly vulnerable to collapse after heavy monsoon rains.
We're deeply concerned that there are still people underneath the rubble that haven't been rescued yet.
Afghanistan's been facing a severe food and economic crisis ever since the Taliban took over when the U.S. left last summer. The UN estimates half of the country's 20 million people were already experiencing acute hunger before this catastrophe struck.
These communities are weakened by months and years of challenges, and so this has come at exactly the wrong time.
And David, the U.S. has sent humanitarian aid over the past year. Officials say they're currently weighing whether to now send more after this disaster. But at this point, the Taliban has not yet asked for help. David?
Just an awful scene playing out in Afghanistan tonight. Maggie, thank you.